Hi, welcome to Inside the Law. I'm Chip Franklin with an Inside the Law update. Today we're talking to attorney Harold Ehrenberg of New Orleans about a case, though 22 years old, still reverberating today. It's, of course, the McDonald's hot coffee case. Harold, why is this case still being talked about 22 years later?
Thanks, Chip. Yeah, the McDonald's hot coffee case is a really interesting case. And not only is it an interesting case, but it's a very important case because it became the battle cry for the special interest groups that are really hell-bent on keeping people from getting compensated, properly compensated for the injuries that they sustained as a result of somebody else's negligence. What we were told about the McDonald's hot coffee case is that a lady's got some hot coffee from McDonald's drive-thru and she spilled it into her lap and she got a little burned. Maybe she got a little bit burned, and she should have known that the coffee was hot because that's in fact what she ordered. And a greedy trial lawyer got a judgment from a jury in the amount of $2.5–3 million. Let me try to give you a little bit more insight into exactly what happened. What happened was that an elderly woman was going through McDonald's drive-thru. Her grandson was driving, and she did order a cup of coffee, hot coffee. Well, they pulled over so that she could put cream and sugar into her coffee, and as she was doing that, the coffee spilled into her lap. And as a result, she sustained some serious burns. In fact, they were third-degree, full-thickness burns that required plastic surgery and required her being in the hospital for over a week. The burns were to her inner thighs and some of her private parts, and they were really very, very severe. But we didn't hear about all of that. Well, during the trial, it came out that there were about close to 1,000 cases that McDonald's had where there was hot coffee involved that had spilled into someone's lap and they were burned as a result. And so McDonald's knew about it. McDonald's knew that the coffee at that temperature was dangerous, but they didn't do anything about it purely so that they could sell more coffee. Well, we weren't told about any of that, but what we were told about was how much money she got. Well, the reality is that the plaintiff, the lady that was injured, attempted to settle with McDonald's for the amount of her medical bills, which was approximately $20,000. McDonald's refused to settle, so it went to a jury. A jury awarded her $160,000, which included all of her pain and suffering as a result of these third-degree burns, and that was also to compensate her for the medical expenses. The burns were to her inner thighs and some of her private parts, and they were really very, very severe, but we didn't hear about all of that. Well, during the trial, it came out that McDonald's kept the temperature of their coffee between 185 and 190 degrees. Now, at that temperature, and what we're not told, and what we were never told about this, is that they kept that temperature that high intentionally because they found that they could sell more coffee when the temperature of the coffee was raised much higher than what it was supposed to be. Traditionally, and at other establishments similar to McDonald's, coffee is kept between 135, 140, sometimes 150 degrees, and that's about the normal temperature. Well, interestingly, there were a number of cases similar to this lady's in the previous 10 years. There were about close to 1,000 cases. A jury awarded her $160,000, which included all of her pain and suffering as a result of these third-degree burns, and that was also to compensate her for the medical expenses. Now, in addition to that, she was also awarded $2.7 million in punitive damages, which was designed specifically to punish McDonald's for their egregiousness in keeping the temperature of the coffee at a much higher degree than what it should have otherwise normally have been. Now, the trial court felt that this amount was too high, so the entire judgment was reduced to $640,000. Both sides appealed, and they wound up settling for somewhat less than $600,000. The bottom line is this case was all about justice, and in our system, justice means money. Now, another reason why this case is so important to you is because if the rights of just one citizen is compromised, then all of our rights are in danger. Now, I'm going to have more stories, and I'm going to be discussing more cases in upcoming emails, and there's a link on my site to this particular story, and I look forward to having more conversations with you in the future. Thanks, Chip.
That's amazing stuff, Harold. Thank you so much. You can get the rest of the details on the case by going to haroldthelawyer.com. For Inside the Law, I'm Chip Franklin.